Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. I now call this meeting of the Brevard County Board of Zoning Adjustment for December 20th to order. First thing up, I'd like Mr. Ball to do any staff introductions. I understand we have maybe everybody.
Yes, thank you. For those of you who don't know, our current secretary has moved on to a different role, and I wanted to introduce her replacement, Kristen Champion. She's sitting next to me. Kristen's worked for me for a couple years. I think she'll do a great job, but if you have any questions in the future, you can reach her. But with that being said, that's my introduction. So.
Very good. Would Mr. Bodie of the Planning and Zoning Department please describe the function and operation of the Board of Zoning Adjustment to our applicants in the audience?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial body established by the Board of County Commissioners under Chapter 62, Article 2, Division 4, Brevard County Code. The Board of Adjustment is empowered to hear requests for variances to zoning regulation and sign regulation in Chapter 62, Article 6, and Article 9. Pursuant to Florida Rules of Appellate Procedure, any person or persons jointly or severally aggrieved by any decision of the Board of Adjustment may, within 30 days after the date the order is signed, apply to a court of competent jurisdiction for appropriate relief. Mr. Chairman, you have 7 items on your agenda today.
Thank you. Would Dr. Bass please assist us by reading the definition of an undue hardship?
An undue hardship. A variance may be granted when it will not be contrary to the public interest and where, owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provision of this chapter will result in unnecessary and undue hardship. The term undue hardship has a specific legal definition in this context and essentially means that without the requested variance, the applicant will have no reasonable use of the subject property under existing development regulations. Personal medical reasons shall not be considered as grounds for establishing undue hardship sufficient to qualify an application for a variance. Economic reasons may be considered only in the instances where the landowner cannot yield a reasonable use and/or a reasonable return under the existing land development regulations. The applicant must answer the variance hardship worksheet with 6 questions. The Board of Adjustments will discuss these questions today with each applicant who has requested a variance.
Thank you. I will now, address the audience and staff and board members regarding our board procedures for the meeting today. The Board of Zoning Adjustment, as a quasi-judicial board with members appointed by the Brevard County Board of Commissioners, will utilize Robert's Rules of Order to conduct its meetings. The chair is asking all board members not to ask questions while the applicants are making their presentations. Once the applicants have completed their presentation, we will begin board questioning with the board member who represents the applicant's district. When concluded, when that person's questioning is concluded, questioning is open to the full board. The chair will recognize each board member in turn. Once all board members have completed their questioning, we will then open the floor to the audience who may be here to speak concerning the applicant's application. Anyone from the audience wishing to speak will be given the opportunity to address the board once and only once, so be concise and complete if you're coming forward as an audience member to speak your piece. At the conclusion of public comment, the applicant will be given additional time for rebuttal, as well as to present their final comments. Once completed, no further comment will be heard from the applicant or the public. All of the action moves to this side of the bar, and the board discusses and makes a ruling. We will not use a timer for this meeting. Instead, we are asking each speaker to be concise in what they have to say. It is important that you stay on subject and avoid information that is not relevant, and I will cut people off if you get rambling way too far. All persons speaking must provide their name and address for the public record. Those wishing not to verbally state their address may ask the clerk at the podium for an address card. Please fill it out and return to the clerk. Are there any questions regarding these procedures from the audience? Is there any questions on these procedures from the board? Are there any questions from these procedures from staff? No. Then in that case, the next item of business is to approve last meeting's Board of Adjustment minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Thompson has made a motion to approve the minutes. A second?
I'll second.
Dr. Bass was quicker. Dr. Bass has seconded the motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous among the 5 members. Okay.
So, Mr. Bodie, may we have our first applicant, please?
Yes, item number 1, variance application 23V00038, Jessica L. and Donald K. May, request variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-1339-5A, to permit a variance of 7.5 feet from the required 25-foot front setback for a principal structure in an EU estate use residential zoning classification. This is located at tax account number 2511433 in District 2.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt over here. Mr. Thomas and Ms. Bass are the primary and the alternate of the same appointee, therefore they cannot bring a motion and second the motion
Ah,
for the minutes.
missed that. So we don't have a second here?
I'll second.
Okay, Sonia, right? Yeah.
Sonia Millard.
All right, Ms. Millard has seconded the motion. We'll go through that again.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just for a point of order, since Dr. Bass was here first, I'll be happy to defer today and let her vote and represent District 4.
Well, that would be a part of the rules as they are. However, you can question.
Okay, very
You
good.
can
I just
question,
wanted-
but you can't vote.
Very good.
Okay. So where were we? Will the
Mr. Chair, I just for clarification, and Becky, I think I need you to chime in. So Dr. Bass is the alternate. I don't know if you can defer, if you're a regular sitting member, to defer your voting rights.
So
I
just
have
the
to look.
opposite.
I'm not. Am I working? I need to look that up. I believe that you can make that decision, especially if there's a reason behind it. I don't know that Dr. Bass got here first is a good enough reason, but I need just a minute to look that up. You can move forward with the next or the first public hearing, and then by the time it's time to vote, hopefully I'll have the answer.
Okay. Just for the information of the audience, I'm the vice chair, and this is like the first time this year I've chaired the meeting, so you'll see a little bit of I'm not going to call it confusion, procedural things here. Anyway, we have a motion on the table to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye. All in favor of moving of approving last month's minutes? Nobody's going to approve it? Aye? Okay. It's unanimous. All right. Will the first applicant please come forward?
Good afternoon.
So I need to swear you in. First, your name and address.
Donald May, 3501 South Tropical Trail, Merritt Island, Florida, 32952.
Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you're going to give us today is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How may we help you?
Okay, so we, my wife and I purchased an existing home. Once we got into the house and started figuring things out, we realized that the garage wasn't big enough to park our vehicles in. So we're requesting to be able to build a 6-foot addition to the front of the garage. The house is a 2-story, 2-level house, so we're just going to build the first story out 6 feet, which will accommodate the vehicles and able to park them in the garage. We can't move the garage wall forward into the home at all because it's a load-bearing wall. Water heaters are there and HVAC systems there as well, so it would be very complicated to move the forward wall of the garage further into the home, so we're requesting to come out towards the street 6 feet. Basically, we're just trying to use the garage for what it's for, be able to park our cars inside.
Okay. Your application arises in District 2, which our representative from District 2 isn't here today,
Yes,
so
sir.
I am going to fill his role of taking first questions.
Okay, no problem.
Are there any other properties nearby that have the same situation where they're forward of the primary?
So, whoops, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if any of the other neighbors have had to request a variance in order to build a garages. This lot size, the lot of where the house is really tight, and actually during this process, we found out that there was actually a variance on the lot size to make it a legal lot size because it's a few square feet short of the legal size. So I don't believe that the neighbors have had to ask for a variance.
Okay.
And looking at the drawing as well, it's the northeast corner of the garage. So I think it's about 12% of the project that actually is going to be within the setback, not the entire project.
Oh, I see, just the corner.
Just the corner, yeah, because in front of the house there, South Tropical runs kind of southeast to northwest, so the property line gets thinner as it goes further north on the parcel.
Okay, and this is enclosed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. I've opened questioning up to any other board members which wish to ask questions of this applicant.
My question would be, if you want to build 6 feet coming out, that would have no bearing to the sidewalk or the safety of anything else, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Presently, there's no sidewalk in front of the house, but if they ever did want to put a sidewalk in there, actually by allowing me to build the 6 feet out, I can put my vehicles inside the garage, so that way we would not be parked on top of the sidewalk in the driveway, to be
Okay,
honest with you.
thank you.
Okay. Next step in this procedure is for me to invite the audience.
Yep,
If
sure.
you could just step aside to
Yes,
give them,
sir.
don't go far. Is there anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against this application? Seeing none? Any final comments?
No, I don't think so. Unless there's any more questions, it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, we just would like to use the garage for this purpose by being able to park the vehicles inside.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. McCann's not here today, but so I cannot make a motion as chair. Is there a motion from, I'm going to have to, it's okay. We're going to make you the primary for now. So if I need a motion from
Then
one
I'll
of the
move for
other board.
approval.
Okay. Mr. Thomas has made a motion to approve. Anyone on this side? Yes, sir.
Motion to approve as depicted on the
Good
survey.
point, good point.
Thank you.
I'll reiterate what you said. Motion to approve the variance as depicted on the survey and the application for forward of the primary structure.
A second.
And Ms. Mallard will second. Is there any board discussion? Okay. The hardest part of this job is that for each one of these applications, I have to read through these 6 hardship questions and try and summarize the board's discussion, as you saw, which was very extensive. Okay. Number 1. First hardship question is that special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. They would be applicable if the same circumstances came up. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. Well, in this case, they do, in the sense that you're putting on an addition, but you also have a difficult property there with the boundary line slanting in. that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. This will not, any special privilege. The literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. I don't think if we denied it, it would make undue hardship, but it also is consistent with rights commonly enjoyed by other properties nearby. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of land, building, and structure. Yes, it is the minimum. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, that such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to public welfare, and as Ms. Mallard commented, the public walkways and things will not be affected by this. So, having read through those, I now call the vote on this. All in favor of this application to be approved, say aye.
Mr. Huffman?
Yes, ma'am.
So, according to Robert's Rules of Order, only the primary is authorized to vote. The alternate is not. The alternate only is authorized to vote if the primary is not present.
Okay.
Therefore, you can't make a decision about stepping back.
But questioning is allowed.
Yes.
Okay. I think I heard that that was unanimous of all the primary board members. Is that
Can I get a roll call? It'll help with Kristen.
learning the,
Yeah.
okay. Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Bill Huffman? Mr. Holmberg?
Aye.
And Ms. Mallard?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we need to do that each time? The roll call?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item number 2, John Lenard Hearton, request variances of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code as follows. Variance number 1, Section 62-1337-4 to permit a variance of 11.3 feet from the minimum 125-foot lot width required for the SEU, Suburban Estate Use Residential Zoning Classification. Variance number 2, 0.1 feet from the required 15-foot side south setback for a principal structure in a SEU zoning classification. The property is currently zoned EU Estate Use Residential, and this is located at tax account number 2633100 in District 4.
Okay. Will the applicant please step forward? Speak close to the microphone, please.
All right.
Okay, need your name and address first.
My name is John Hearton. I reside currently at 675 Anderson Court in Satellite Beach, still District 4.
Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
It is.
Okay,
Thank you.
please
First,
proceed.
first, I'd like to go ahead and provide a signed letter from the neighbor to the north who basically had contacted me with regards to the,
Okay, so
the,
you have to
thing.
give that to staff. Did you,
summarizing it, it just, to summarize it, it just basically says that they approve of the plans. We had actually gone over the plans with them prior, and they were supportive of the plans. They got notification from the county that there was, that this was going to be done. And so they reached out to me and said, hey, is there anything I need to do? And I said, well, a letter saying that you're okay with the plans would be good. And so they wanted to go ahead and provide that.
it always is.
So,
Okay. You want to see it? Okay.
okay. And I'll provide a little history as I go along, but basically, currently, there's no protections in place at the county level to prevent someone from subdividing the land and selling it to unknown buyers, which falls into my situation. The tax department doesn't necessarily talk to zoning. It's currently taxed as a buildable lot. I've been paying taxes for a number of years as it being a buildable lot. I bought it because I thought it was a buildable lot. It was purchased in good faith as probably third owner, fourth owner, since it's been subdivided. And the lot to the south is actually probably in the same situation. They'll probably wind up having to request the rezoning and so forth to get that squared away. So this was done prior, the subdividing was done prior to the 2015 change to the rules. And so it's all based upon, when it was at the time. The architect did a walk-in permit office, visiting, confirmed the setbacks and restrictions for the land without the staff raising any concern. There are numerous lots along South Tropical Trail that are less than 125 feet in width. And without actually measuring it, it would be very difficult to tell that it wasn't 125 feet. It's currently at 116 feet there at the road. So it is a sizable lot. It's a 1.27 acre lot. But it's narrower than what the new use requires. This was very new to me. I purchased it in good faith. I actually had, obviously attorneys that were involved. You had title companies that were involved. You had realtors that were involved, and nobody told me that it wasn't a buildable lot. In fact, like I said, I've been paying taxes on it as if it was a buildable lot. The side yard setback is encroached by only 4 inches in the 2 8-foot sections, and the encroachment is not for the entire south side of the property. With respect to the 4-inch request, any changes to the current plans requires a heavy burden of both cost and time with the architect and the truss layout, resulting in yet more months of delay. In fact, I spent 18 months on the development of the home planning, and I did not find out anything about the requirement for rezoning or any variance until we submitted for permitting. And then we got it pushed back from permitting saying, hey, this is a problem. And so it was all new to me, which happened a couple months ago. Yeah. So, and like I said, we've had support from the neighbors up to the north. See if there's anything else now. That's all current. There's already been some undue burden and undue cost that wasn't expected, obviously, in the request and payment for the variance and rezoning requirement. That was not expected. So I just humbly request that you approve this and we can move on and finally get started what we hoped to do a couple years ago.
Okay, very good summary. Your application arises in District 4, which is represented by Mr. Thomas, and so you have first questions.
Well, thank you. You answered my only question, and just to reaffirm, your realtor, your attorneys, the other professionals involved, nobody.
Correct. Nobody informed. In fact, it was. I actually had surveys done as well, and there was nothing in the survey that said that it wasn't a buildable lot. There's stakes still in the property.
Thank you. That was really my only question.
You can question.
I'm very familiar with South Tropical Trail, and the homes along there, as shown here in this, are beautifully positioned, and one does expect that you would get both rivers for your property. That's what you purchased, that's what you thought.
Yes, ma'am.
It is not surprising that developers do not go into the details, or in fact, oftentimes may not check on some of the zoning requirements. But I think it's very positive that your neighbor has said that that doesn't interfere with that person or that property either. And on the other side, it is a vacant lot. So I think you have provided very good information at this point.
Thank you.
And on that particular lot, yes, that would be perfect for a home, as all the others are down there.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other questions on this side?
No, I don't have a question, but I just want to make sure I'm clear. So all we're really here for today is to ensure that we're changing it so you can build on this property, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I'd
That's-
like to be able to build on it, and it was the original intent.
And because you was unaware of it
The
originally.
requiring, like I said, we had no idea about this until we submitted for permitting.
Okay, thank you. No question.
Walberg?
No.
No?
Good.
I always have one standard question on things like this.
Yes,
where
sir.
we have a skinny lot, and that is, if there's an emergency in the back of the lot away from the road, is there adequate access along both sides of the house to get a gurney or whatever
Yes, sir.
back there for an emergency?
Yes, sir.
So
Yeah,
your plans don't, can't tell from the survey, but,
Yeah, the restriction is actually less than 10% of what the requirement is, so.
Okay. but there is
Plenty of
5,
room.
6 feet of space between the house and the property.
It's 15 feet on one side and I think 13.6 on the other.
Now the next procedure is for you to step aside for a moment. We already have one letter of positive feedback. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against this application? Yes, come forward.
Come to.
Well, you have to come forward and do it official. So you got to go through the whole thing, name and address.
I am David Andrew Okonsky at 4285 Randon Lane, also South Merritt Island, 32952.
Okay. Do you swear the testimony you're going to give us is the truth?
I do.
Okay. Whatever comment you.
The comment is, I would like to support, because obviously the public wants, I want, also living on the island as a neighbor, a beautiful single-family home to go on this lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. There's no one else? Okay, yeah. Any final short summary?
Nope, I just, I think it was pretty straightforward. I hope I explained everything accordingly, and I hope that everything's okay. So,
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Take a seat. Usually we allow the district rep, Mr. Thomas, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. Does this require two motions, or just, can I include it all into one?
You can put it on, one.
Okay. Then, Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval of the variance as depicted on the survey provided by the applicant with a revision date of 10/9/2023, as well as moving for approval of the zoning from EU to SEU.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second.
Ms. Mallard is seconded.
Mr. Chair, can you just say the motions again?
Oh. The motion is to approve the application as shown on the survey, which is a 11-foot variance for the frontage width, as
It's a
well as
lot width. It's for the lot width.
lot width, and a 1/10 foot variance for the 15-foot side setback on the south side. And are we changing the zoning?
No, and that's what caught my ear is that I just want to make sure. So we're not changing the zoning. However, the applicant does have an application that will go through the Board of County Commissioners process. So right now, it's SEU, but they're,
It's EU right now,
It's
and it's going to SEU.
yes, it's going to SEU. So yes, there's
Okay,
no
so
zoning
that's not
change.
part of the motion.
I'll withdraw that part of my
That's
motion.
okay, but that's why he's making us work it out. So we have a motion and a second. We ask for any discussion from the board members.
None.
You guys are an agreeable bunch today, but you put me right into reading my soliloquies here. There it is. Okay, I have to read the 6 hardship questions and summarize the board discussion. The special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. Well, they will when they come for permits, because all of the lots down there probably do not meet the lot width conditions. That special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. Kudos for coming here ahead of time and not after the fact. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. It doesn't confer a special privilege. Again, the other lands in this area are probably going to be before us when they go to build. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter, and would constitute unnecessary and undue hardship. In essence, if he had known this ahead of time, he probably could have changed the design of the home. But as it's so far down the process, the literal enforcement would at this point deprive him of rights. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Yes, it's the minimum variance. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with general intent and purpose of this chapter, that such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Having a positive letter or statement from neighbors is always welcome and helps us to say that this is not injurious. Okay, with that all done, I will call the vote. All in favor say aye, and then we'll have a roll.
Aye.
Okay, Ms. Sonia, Ms. Mallard says aye.
Aye.
Mr. Holmberg says aye. Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Okay, all right. Mr. Bodie, can we have our next applicant, please?
Yes. Item number 3, application 23V00040, Doug Robertson and Kathy Corsaut. Request variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-1334-5C, to permit a variance of 34.6 feet from the required 50-foot side north setback for a barn in an AU agricultural residential zoning classification. And this is located on tax count number 3014731 in District 3.
Okay. Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Doug Robertson, 9490 Fleming Grant Road, Mico, Florida, 32726.
Okay.
32926.
And do you swear that the testimony you're going to give us today is the truth?
Yes.
Okay. How may we help you?
Well, first off, my neighbors came to me, and by reading this, it also looks like it's a new barn build, and that's what my neighbors were concerned of. It's not. It's an existing barn that's been there roughly 25 years. We purchased the 9 acres because it had an existing barn, and we have 3 horses. The horses are currently there. We went to pull a permit, and we were told that we had to demo the barn, which would create a hardship not just on us financially, but also for the horses. We have not prepared to put a new barn on the property, with the expense of on top of the house. The barn is also approximately 700 feet off the road. I don't even know if you notice it from the road. I've never really paid attention. My neighbors, 2 neighbors that I've spoke to have not had a problem with it. Also in the area, I've looked at, I've got a couple of pictures and then 3 more on my phone where there's 2 existing barns behind me that are less than the 50 feet. And I'm not sure if this matters. There is a house, but might fall under a different setback. It's only 34 feet from my property line. And then there's a water structure, another structure that's 36 feet from my property line. So they don't fall in either. And I know he has done numerous renovations and has had no issues. And we're all, basically that whole side of Fleming Grant, it's all agriculture. It's people with cows and goats and horses.
Hmm.
It'd also cause a hardship for the horses right now. If I tear that down, I have nothing for them in case of a storm to go in. They come and go out of their stalls,
Okay. All right.
and that's it.
Okay, good, very concise, thank you. We will start the questioning. This is in District 3. Mr. Holmberg, that is your district that you represent?
I do have a couple questions, if you don't mind. On the barn, is there a foundation to the barn?
It's got a,
Concrete or?
2 of the stalls have concrete, 2 of them do not, but then there's a concrete footer all the way around it.
You don't know how deep that is or anything?
No, I don't.
Does the barn have power and water also?
Yes,
Have you ever had the barn inspected
no.
at all see if it's structurally sound or anything? No?
I had a builder look at it, and it has sat there for 25 years. He didn't see any issues with it. I have done some repairs that had some rotted wood on it.
And the horses like it, right?
Oh, yeah. One of them's 29 years old now.
But just, let me ask again about the foundation. Only 2 of the stalls have a foundation to it?
No,
And
there's a foundation all the way around it and in between the stalls.
okay.
A lot of people don't like their horses on
Right,
concrete at all. They like dirt. And we actually have one that we cannot put on concrete. She has Cushing's. So we actually brought in special sand for her and for her pasture area and for the stall. That's the 29-year-old. So it's very common not to pour concrete in a barn.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board members?
No question, but I'd just like to summarize what I hear. So I'm hearing you saying, if you don't have this barn, the horses will be outside without shelter, correct? You have 3 horses?
Yes, 3 horses.
Okay. And that's the only shelter that's on your property right now?
Correct.
And due to hardship, you have another barn being built at this time?
No, I do not.
Correct. Thank
I
you.
did not plan on it.
Thank you.
Any questions? You had mentioned that there were other structures and barns in the area, not for enforcement purposes, but are they behind you, beside you?
Two are behind me, which are both less than 50 feet. Again, I don't know if it matters. I don't know if it matters or not. I got pictures on my phone, and then I had these I printed out as a house and their water pump structure that's less than 50 feet from me. And then on the far south side, there is a fair-sized structure, literally butts my fence, with power and water. And I think they use it for chickens, their cows, and geese. And that touches my fence.
So if they came
So
forward.
I'm all the way around.
So if they happen to come by us in the future with a request for that variance, you would have objection to that or not?
Oh, not at all, because like, we're all the same, just we're outdoor country people.
Okay. Very good. Okay, next procedure, I need to ask if there's anyone in the audience. So is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against this application, not the applicant? Seeing none, please return. And any summary, brief summary?
No, I think it was pretty cut and dry. Again, it's an existing barn, not a new barn, because I did have 2 neighbors come up to me and say, "Where are you putting the new barn?"
Okay.
And I said, "No, it's the old blue one right here." I said, "Oh, that don't matter."
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, District 3, Mr. Holmberg, you have the option of making a motion?
I agree with this. I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance as stated, with an exception here on this interoffice memo. it says we might want to limit its approval as depicted on the survey. I don't think there should be any limitation.
That's pretty common language in all the
Yeah, okay.
applications.
Well, just so we know.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have a motion to approve a 34.6-foot side setback variance to a required 50-foot side setback on this property as depicted on the survey and the application. Do we get a second on that?
A second.
Ms. Mallard seconded, so we have the motion on the table. Board discussion. Okay. No board discussion, so it moves to me to read the hardship questions. This gets repetitious. The special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. Well, apparently it's not a special condition, as that there are many other ones that are in similar circumstances. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the applicant's actions. No, the barn was there when he purchased it. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege as denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. Does not confer any special privilege that others couldn't request the same variance for. The literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under provisions of this chapter, and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. Not only the applicant, who already has the barn in place, but apparently the animals that it is supporting. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of land, building, or structure. I believe this is the minimum variance since it is the existing condition. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to public welfare. Will not be injurious to the area or detrimental to public welfare because, according to the testimony, everyone else has done this in the past as well. So, having read those 6 hardship questions, I will call the vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, say aye.
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 Roll call, Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Mr. Holmberg?
Aye.
And Ms. Mallard?
Aye.
Okay. It's new. Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes. Application 23B00041, Kenneth J. Farrington and Dorothy J. Farrington, request variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code as follows. Variance number 1, Section 62-2100.5, 1D, to permit a variance of 800.5 square feet over the 687.5 square foot, 50% of the living area of the principal structure, allowed for an accessory structure. Variance number 2, Section 62-2100.5, 1B, to permit a variance of 343 square feet over the total floor area, 1,887 square feet of the principal structure for all detached accessory structures in an RU-1-7 single-family residential zoning classification, and this is located at tax account number 2802338 in District 5.
Thank you. State your name and address for the record,
Kenneth
please.
J. Farrington, 2300 Maple Street, West Melbourne, Florida, 32904.
Do you swear the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Go ahead, you may.
Looking to put a metal building up. The existing building that are going to be tore down was built back in the 80s. This property has been in my family since the 40s, and my parents had did a rebuild back in '06 and the new house is built up 3 foot higher than where the existing house was. So the shop and everything that's there floods. Every time it rains, it fills up with water. There's family heirlooms, there's lots of stuff from my grandparents and stuff throughout the years have been in it. And I'm looking to tear the existing structure down and basically build the same thing up higher on the other part of the property.
Okay. Okay, we will move to board questions. Your application arises in District 5, that's my district, so I will start the questioning. One of the questions, my questions that you answered is, it's a metal building, it's going to be completely enclosed.
Yes, sir.
Because I did drive by the property and it seemed like there were a lot of open structures.
Yes, sir. And that's the one, my parents did that back when they lived there, and they've passed away.
Okay.
And so me and my sister now currently have the house. And so with everything that's there, I just want to be able to put inside because the wind blows in, the rain blows in, and everything is getting, ruined. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of, heirlooms and stuff like that of family from back when they, originally had the house and stuff. And it's been passed down through the generations. And so I want to protect it. So that's for the reason for doing a complete enclosed one.
Okay. I did drive by the property and stopped, talked to you, drove the neighborhood as well. On your survey, you're showing some buildings to be removed. I just want to make sure I understand. I know that there's a big open structure.
That's the one in the front there that you're talking about? That's going to be demoed.
Yeah.
Both of those, and they're going to be in the middle, they're going to be demoed.
And the one in the back?
There's one already been removed in the back.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. There are a couple other smaller ones?
They've been removed. So
Okay.
everything has been removed from, except, the only one that has not been removed is the current one that has everything in it.
In the
And
back
when the
of
new
the
one gets
property.
built, then I'll take everything out of that, put in there, and then demo the existing ones.
Okay. Yeah, I did drive through the neighborhood, and I noticed a lot of other people had out structures.
Yes, sir.
But they were all enclosed, and they all kind of had architectural
Yes,
things
sir.
that kind of matched the house. Now, your house is, I don't remember the roof, but I remember it was,
It's a metal roof.
it's a metal roof on a
Yes, sir.
block,
Yes, sir.
block or masonry
Yes, sir.
walls.
Yes, sir.
And so the new one is going to be white, gray?
No, it's going to match the house.
Match the house color?
Yes, sir.
So it'll kind of blend in?
It's going to be the same color, same everything as matching the house.
Okay, okay.
And then, like I said, the old structure was built in the 80s, actually early 80, I think it's 79 or 80. And it's probably, it's at least 3 foot lower. And with all the rains, everything, it just floods. And there's no way to keep it from flooding. I've tried to dig trenches around it, put drains in, and it just, all the water keeps coming to it. So this is the best way I see to be able to, and the existing structure is almost the same size as what I'm proposing to build. It's a little bit bigger, but not much. So,
Have you had plans drawn up and?
Yes, sir.
Showing the fill, and that's been,
yes.
other than the
We
zoning,
turned in
is
for a
everything
permit
else?
and had all the drawings, 170 mile an hour wind codes for the building, impact resistant window, impact resistant doors. Everything is all
The
done.
elevated?
Yes, it's going to be 6 inches higher than the road, Vine Street,
Crown.
which is on it, yes, 6 inches higher than that.
Okay. So I'll open up the floor for anyone else that,
Mr. Chair?
yes?
2 questions for you. One is, have any of your neighbors expressed any concerns over this?
No, sir.
And the second one is, has there been any engineering input as far as what's going to happen to the drainage, where the water's going to go? Once you raise this other area?
Well,
6 inches?
we're not raising, I mean, the elevation that's currently there is only going to be up 4 inches higher, because it's already that much higher at that far side of the property.
I got you.
The only place where the property is low is where the existing shop is now. So, because everything flows down to it and then flows out.
And just out of curiosity, what are you planning to do with the existing,
It's going to be tore down.
and is it going to become a retention area, or do you?
There's ditches that go all around it, and so that's all, there's already a drain that comes to it, so it'll all naturally flow back to it, to the drains.
Okay, my only concern was that the water would potentially find its way to your neighbors.
Right, no,
or to the
sir. I
street.
mean, I'm on just over an acre, so, and I have no neighbors that touch my property except for the very back.
Understood.
I have roads on 3 sides.
Okay, thank you.
So now back to his question. So there is a road drainage on the west side of your property?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
There's one
so
on the
that's
east side, too.
That's where the water would drain to,
Yes, sir.
into the road. Okay. All right. Any further questions?
No question.
Okay. Step aside so I can do that. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or against the application? And I see there's someone coming forward. So I'll need your name and address and swear you in.
My name's Patrick Horn, 2335 Maple Street, West Melbourne, 32904.
Okay. You swear the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm just here in support of Kenny. My wife and I have been neighbors to them for about 31 years, and the building would really enhance the property. Nothing against the old structure, but it's time to go, and it would certainly help out his drainage and water issue over there too. Great people, and glad to be their neighbor.
You gave me your address for his property. Are you on the south, west, north?
I'm southeast.
Southeast, okay.
We actually have a house up front, and then we live behind that one.
You front on the other street?
Right.
He fronts on, yeah, okay. I can see from the aerial.
Right, the red roofed one, that's where we moved originally and raised the kids, and then we built our primary behind it.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, been pretty fortunate. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Is there any others? Okay. You get any last words, brief summary, anything?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Take
Thank
your
you.
seat. Okay, as chair on District 5, I cannot make a motion, so I would ask that someone else make a motion to approve or disapprove this application.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
I'll move for approval as depicted on the survey provided by the applicant with the survey date of August 17th, 2023.
Okay, and that is, okay, we have a motion to permit a variance of 800 square feet over the 687 square feet, which is 50% of the living area of the principal structure, allowed for an accessory structure, and we have a second portion to that variance to permit a variance of 523 square feet over the total area of 1,375 square feet of the principal principal structure for all detached accessory structures. Do I have a second?
A second.
Ms. Mallard is seconded. And now we open it up for board discussion. I don't mind taking the first lead on that because I did drive by the property, and it is old open structures, whereas the rest of the neighborhood principally has enclosed structures on their property, accessory structures. And I think his statement, and also the gentleman in support, that it would enhance the look of that property right there is probably correct. Any other discussion?
I have a question. Are these two roads, are they dirt roads or
No, they're
paved?
paved.
Okay.
They're paved with good drainage for the storm drainage. And that brings up the comment about the water will drain into that back.
Right.
And those roads and those ditches should be sized for storm drainage. I think we just have a few low spots and bad grading on the property itself that's retaining water. Okay, let's see. Okay, now read the 6 hardship questions and summarize our findings. that special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. These special circumstances may apply to other ones, but these circumstances exist elsewhere in that neighborhood and zoning classification. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. As an inheritor, he inherited this from his parents, but it's been in this condition for a while. And the actions which the applicant is taking to refurbish the structures in the new structure are his actions. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. I'm sure there's many others in that neighborhood that have already gone through this refurbishment. The literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification of the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. It would not deprive him of rights, and it would not provide unnecessary and undue hardship for him to not do this, but I think it's in the benefit of the neighborhood that he does. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of land, building, and structure. I don't know that it's the minimum, but it's with the consolidation of all those buildings into one, it's probably the minimum practical variance. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. It will not be injurious, and it will be actually beneficial to the public welfare. So, having said all that, I will call the vote. All in favor of the motion? We'll go by roll call. Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Chair is aye. Mr. Holberg? And Ms. Mallard?
Aye.
Okay. It's unanimous, 4-0. Okay. Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item number 5, variance application 23V 00042, Philip Michael Lombardi, request variance, Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-1334, 5B, to permit a variance of 9 feet from the required 15-foot side east setback for an accessory structure in an AU agricultural residential zoning classification. And this is located, we don't have a tax count number on this.
We don't have a district either.
We don't have a district either.
Do we know which district it's in?
Hang on 1 second. I've got it right here. It's located at tax count number 2530644, and it's located in District 2.
Okay. All right. I would invite you forward, but you're already here.
Yeah.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Philip Lombardi, 1970 Barton Boulevard,
Okay.
Rock Ridge.
Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
Yes.
Okay. You may proceed.
Yep. I'm trying to build a metal building. I'm in the construction field, so I have a lot of equipment that's sitting in my driveway, and being out in the elements, always getting rusty, and then my neighbors have to look at it. So I need one so wide, and that's what I need the variance for, because the previous owner dug I got a big pond in the back, and because I have 2.5 acres, but they put the house, of course, 350 feet back on my, so I'm very in the back, and the structure has to be behind my house, so I only have the side between my lot line and the pond to build it, and I needed that wide so I can get my equipment back in there to keep it out of the elements. I don't have to worry about it getting rusty, and then for hurricanes, it's just a pain to try to strap them down and, to have it safe for everybody and my neighbors. The neighbor behind me has a big structure. He wasn't sure if he needed a variance just because the previous owner had already had it there, even though it looks pretty close to his too. And that's the guy behind me, sorry. And then next to me, it's just a easement. So there's no neighbor or anything. It's just an easement. We're in key lots back there. And like I said, besides the person left to me, it's a dead end after that. So I don't really have, anybody looking at it either. But it is, like I said, 400 feet from the road. So doesn't disturb anybody. Everybody gave me the okay, and yeah, just really trying to get my yard cleaned up and my equipment, in a safe place for hurricanes, and just to keep it out of the elements. A lot of upkeep, keep having them painted.
Okay. All right. We will we'll open it up to ask the board to, if they have any questions. You are in District, what did we say, District 2?
Yes, sir.
Your representative, Mr. McCann's not here today, so I will take his place and starting off with the questioning. I'm looking at the aerial photograph and assuming that, well, I know where Barton Road is. So on the west side of you, it looks like there's a very narrow lot that is partially occupied by the pond that you speak of.
And
Yes.
unfortunately, yeah, and that's why I'm trying to keep this building away from the pond, because that gentleman, the previous owner, dug that one day when nobody was there, and I have erosion on that side of my house because that actually is some of my property, but the previous owner didn't dig it. It was that gentleman that dug it. So
Well, it looks like you went clear over into your property for the
yes,
whole pond.
it was it's actually Big Frank, the owner of Big Frank's.
I
Yeah, so
wouldn't know him.
okay, yeah, so yeah, but yeah, that's what happened. So yeah, there's that, and then their house is forward of that. But yeah, and like I said, other than that, there's nobody really next to us. I mean, we're a pretty big lot, so I'll have 2.5 acres and more, and everybody pretty much has a barn structure or a metal building.
Okay. I notice that there is 2 flag lots that have access to your east. There's a road that goes back to the one flag lot that has an entrance road, and just to the east of that is another flag lot, which apparently, according to this photo, hasn't developed yet.
Yeah, she's working on it.
But there's no access road shown on the photo. I don't think your survey would extend beyond your property line.
No. But the gentleman who owns the easement on that side, that road, I mean, he actually texted me this morning just saying good luck, but yeah, he had no problem with it. He's the one who also has a structure on the back of his lot. And I think it's still like 15 feet from that road.
Okay. So your driveway goes north from Barton Road, comes out, kind of widens out and swings out to the east. Did you, where is it that you're putting the building?
At the end of the driveway, sir, yeah, so just at the end behind the house.
Behind the house?
Mm-hmm, yeah, because you can't I tried to get in front because I have so much acreage, but then they said I had to sub-lot, which they said I could, but I was like, I don't want to do all that, I'll just put it in the back, and that's when I found out my variance is 15 feet, but with my water being right there, I couldn't get it that wide, so that's why I need the extra 9 feet of variance. But yeah, it's at the end of my driveway, that way I can just pull all the trailers that are in my driveway and all my equipment, I can just pull them straight back into those bays right there and keep them out of everything and an eyesore.
So is your plan to have open bays or closed garage?
It's going to be a full closed garage, yeah, full closed, yeah, fully out of the element, yeah. It's just going to be a complete metal building that matches my house size, yeah,
Okay.
the roof and everything, in the same color, brown.
Can I ask what kind of construction you're in?
Yeah, I'm working on I was a partner with a general construction. They retired, and actually, I take my test next month, yeah. My tests are January, the end of January, there's 3 of them, and I'm going for my GC license.
State or resident, or
State.
local?
State, yeah.
Good
So,
luck.
yeah, I appreciate it, yeah. So I'm in Palm Construction School right now, just finished that, so yeah, I'm just doing my last little bit of studying, but yeah, so yeah, I build houses and stuff, so that's what I do.
Answer the questions that they ask, not what you know is
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Okay. I think I've finished with my questioning. Does anyone else have questions?
No question.
No questions.
Okay. Next step is for you to step aside. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor or against this application? Not the applicant, the application. Seeing none, please return. And any brief summary or last words?
Well, pretty much summed it all up, what I needed for.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, guys, appreciate it.
Okay. I'm covering for District 2 here, which is Mr. McCann. However, as chair, I cannot make a motion. So Are you going to do it, or can we, anyone over here want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the variance as depicted by the survey.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All right. We have a motion by, I will repeat it. We have a motion by Miss Mallard, second by Mr. Holmberg, for a motion that states to permit a 9-foot variance from the required 15-foot setback of an accessory structure in an agricultural zoning classification. So we have a motion on the table, we move to board discussion. My only discussion is that with the 2 flag lots and their access to the east, if that lane was any shorter, there might be a sight distance problem, but there isn't. So I just don't see any problem with it. Any more discussion?
No, sir.
Okay. Let me do my reading of the hardship questions. Okay. That special circumstances and conditions exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. Special conditions and circumstances, a lot of his lot was taken up by the pond, and he's kind of hemmed in by flag lots and a narrow lot to the west. So those conditions would be applicable to other lands similar to this. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. In this case, they do, but there are circumstances that were preceding this, especially the location of the pond. The granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. No special privilege would be conferred. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification of the provisions of this chapter, and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. Considering the openness of the area there, I think it would be an undue hardship to force him to make a narrower garage or move his well to make room or go further back on the property. So I think literal enforcement would constitute an undue hardship. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Yes, he's squeezed between the well and the property line. That granting the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. It looks like it's a fairly open property area, and it's not going to be injurious to the access for the flag lots to the east. I will now call the vote by roll call. Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Mr. Holmberg?
Aye.
And Ms. Mallard?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the vote is 4-0 in favor. The motion passes. Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item number 6, application 23V00043, TGAC Real Estate LLC, requests variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-2109C, to permit a variance of 4 feet over the maximum 4-foot height allowed for a fence within the 25-foot front setback in a BU-2 retail warehousing and wholesale commercial zoning classification, and this is located at tax account number 2438639 in District 2.
The applicant, please come forward. And state your name and address for the record.
Yep, Robbie Karen, 1606 Fuji Drive, Melbourne, Florida, 32940.
Okay. That name's different than what's on the application, or do we have authority on that?
I'm sorry, what was that question?
They listed Jessica Grow, and you stated your name is,
Robbie.
Yeah, we have a,
Authorization.
we have an authorization form for him.
okay, just confirming.
Perfect.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear that the testimony you're going to give us today is the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, good afternoon. So I represent the boat dealership Boteca that leases the property from TGAC Real Estate. We are looking to install a fence on the property, and there's a portion of the fence that we're requesting the variance for fence height, given the setback requirements off of State Road 520. So we understand that the county's land development code does allow a fence of 8 foot, as long as it's set back 25 feet from the property line. We have a unique situation where we're permitted to have our boats up to the property line, and our boats are exceeding 8 foot in most cases. So in this case, we are just asking that we have a fence at the same place that the boats are that will protect them, at the same height or below the height of the boats that are at the property line. With this, if we did have to require the 4-foot fence, it would set us back 25 feet over the 180-foot span, which would take away approximately 40 boats from storage to the property that we lease. We're just requesting a variance for the limited portion of the site that you'll see on the survey. With this proposal, we will be replacing the existing chain link fence with an 8-foot black anodized aluminum, like aesthetically pleasing fence that we think will look better in the community. That's all I had.
Okay. Your application rises in District 2, which is Mr. McCann, not here today, so I will fill in for him. And I will start out with a few questions. Describe the fence again, please.
Yeah, so it is a 8-foot like black iron, the kind of slotted black iron fencing, kind of decorative.
Like a wrought iron?
Yeah.
So you can see through it?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, probably better visibility than the existing chain link fence.
Okay. Is it chain link fence slatted?
It's just like a kind of a
Just
old,
industrial?
yeah, not so good looking chain link.
I might say, I'll speak my question as a form of a statement kind of now. We've had a number of variances to businesses along Merritt Island Causeway. The unique circumstance here is that there is a very, very broad shoulder. So even though your property line sits back, or you're talking about a variance of the property line, you're way, way back, away from the Merritt Island Causeway. So that was a question you.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all the questions I have. Does anyone else wish to question the applicant?
Just 2 quick questions.
Sure.
How long has the business been in operation?
We've been in operation for 1.5 years at that location, 3 years in total now.
Okay. And have there been any incidents, it mentions about for safety and security, has there been any incidents of
There has.
criminal activity?
Yes, sir. Yeah, just minor theft. So some of the electronics in the boats, which we try to increase the lighting, but it doesn't help that much, so.
What kind of top on this fence? Just a,
No, it's just like kind of, so the rods come up and they just have like that decorative cap on each rod.
so there's a space, like a couple inches down, there's a horizontal bar.
Yeah, probably like
and-
4 or 5 inches down, I would say.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, there is a cut sheet in your packet that
Is there?
details the fence.
In the back?
Yes, it should be the last.
Okay, yes, there is. Yes, there is. Okay,
Mr. Chair, I just have a question for the staff.
sure.
Is that this type of fence, if we approve this today, could they turn around and change it and put a 8-foot plastic fence, non-see-through if they wanted to?
Well, you're going
Or-
for the fence height, you're not really.
That's what I'm saying, it doesn't specify the type of fence.
Type.
So what you could do, if you wanted specifically to see this type of fence, I would make that part of your motion.
We've already purchased the fence too, just that fence specifically.
Okay.
Any others? Okay. Procedural? please step aside. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or against this application? Quickly seeing none. Running in late into the afternoon here.
That's all I had. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you. District 2, I'm substituting for Mr. McCann, but as chair, I can't make a motion, so I need a motion.
Mr. Chair,
All right,
I'll move for approval as depicted on the survey provided by the applicant with a survey date of January 12th, 2022, and with the stipulation that the fence be as described here today in his testimony.
okay.
You can say like an 8-foot wrought iron fence,
8-foot wrought iron fence.
8-foot wrought iron fence.
It's aluminum now.
Mr. Holmberg, you second this?
I'll second, but it's aluminum, correct?
Okay.
Wrought iron
Not wrought
style.
iron. Yeah. Okay. We have a motion to request a variance, or to permit a variance of 4 foot over the maximum 4-foot height allowed for a fence within a 25-foot setback in this BU2 zoning classification, with the stipulation that the fence will be in compliance or accordance with the fence type submitted as part of the application as an exhibit, which would be a aluminum wrought iron style fence. Okay. We have a motion on the table. Any board discussion?
No.
My only comment, it goes back to what I said before, and that is that we've had numerous, well, not numerous, but we've had several variances similar to this because of the condition of the shoulder being so wide on the Merritt Island Parkway or Causeway. So, I guess I have to read. Okay, that special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. That special circumstance, in my view, is the broad shoulder on the Merritt Island Causeway. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. In essence, they do, and we'll take that into consideration. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. Doesn't provide a special privilege. The literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. A 4-foot fence would not necessarily constitute unnecessary or undue hardship on the applicant in this situation, but it's, yeah. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use, land, building, and structure. It is the minimum that they're requesting. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. If anything, the public welfare will be enhanced by keeping out petty theft, and it will not be injurious to the area since it's very much in harmony with other variances that we have granted in this same area. Okay, with that, I will call the roll call vote. Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Mr. Holberg?
Aye.
And Ms. Howard?
Aye.
Okay. By a vote of 4-0, the application for the variance is approved. Mr. Bodie, may we have our final applicant of the day?
Yes, item number 7, variance 23V 00045, Dale and Margaret Osgood, Request variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code as follows. Variance number 1, Section 62-2118D2 to permit a variance of 7.5 feet from the required 7.5-foot side east setback as projected in a straight line into the waterway for a covered boat dock. Variance number 2, Section 62-2118D3 to permit a variance of 7 feet over the maximum 30-foot projection, 20% of the width of the waterway permitted for the boat dock. Variance number 3, Section 62-2118D5 to permit a variance of 78.16 square feet over the maximum 600 square feet permitted for the deck together with the roofed area. Variance number 4, Section 62-2118D5 to permit a variance of 87.51 square feet over the maximum 500 square feet permitted for a covered boat dock. Number 5, Section 62-2118D4 to permit a dock higher than the property's seawall in an RU-1-11 single-family residential zoning classification, and this is located at tax count number 2418523 in District 2.
I see you've already come forward. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Stacy Torres at 910 Newfound Harbor Drive in Merritt Island, Florida.
Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I am the contractor for the owners, so I'm representing them. This is an existing dock. The home at this property on Artemis Boulevard experienced a fire, so it has subsequently been demoed to be reconstructed. So at the submission of a permit for reconstruction of the home, we found out that the dock is not legitimized, as the term the building department used. So that started the process of having to legitimize the dock. So in some of our research, so it's to remain as is. The homeowners have not done anything to the dock. They're not trying to expand the dock. They're simply wanting it to remain as is. We did some research through the MAP reproduction department, and were able to establish that the dock was constructed as it is between 1986 and 1989. So it's been there 34, maybe 37 years. So it's been there quite a while. We have letters that are in your packet from the two immediate adjacent neighbors that would be most affected by the dock, that they have no issue with the dock remaining as is. We also have documentation in your packet of 24 surrounding docks that also exceed limitations. So we don't see that there's any special privilege being requested, being that so many docks in this area are also exceeding some of the required square footage numbers. There is a survey in there as well that notates the dimensions and how it goes over. Since this has been submitted, our building permit has been issued and construction has begun on the home. So you can imagine reconstructing a house is quite expensive in this day, so there would absolutely be a financial burden for them to have to reconstruct or reorient the dock in some way so that it would meet current standards. So the request really is to allow the dock to remain as is. And I think that is pretty much the gist of it. The list that you have shows 24 other homes with exceeding dock sizes. There's a list. That information was all obtained from the Brevard County website.
Okay.
Sure. Can I say something?
Yeah.
I don't have letters.
Yeah, I don't have
Oh, okay.
letters or a list.
All right,
in
so
my
I do
packet.
have copies of them with me. It was submitted in the packet. Would you like for me to provide them?
Does Does anyone doubt that she has these letters? Can we just hand them to staff? Do you want to read them?
That's fine.
Okay, just hand them to staff.
Mr. Chair, these documents, I don't believe, got into your packet.
They
We
did
do-
not.
We do have them in our file.
Okay, well then, if you have them in the file.
Yeah,
you'll
did you,
just-
did you want to look at them?
It sounds like there's an extensive list there, and it's, we're taking this young.
There are letters of support from, I know at least one of the,
The two abutting property owners.
Both support it.
Yeah, would you like to read them?
No, it's getting late in the day, and she looks like a very honest person, so she swore to tell the truth. We're going to take your
So
word
it's two
for it.
letters of support, okay.
Yes,
If
ma'am.
that's okay with
That's
the
fine.
board. So your application arises in District 2. Mr. McCann's not here, and he owes me a big favor when he gets back. I have a question for staff. This looks suspiciously familiar to another angular dot. Is this the same location or a different location
Than the
one
one
we
that
have?
was a month ago? or
Yeah, a
two?
month or two ago?
No, this is in a different location than
Okay,
that one.
but same developer kind of?
No.
No. I'm just saying, same kind of developer waterfront thing when he has a corner and everybody's got a narrow frontage on the
Oh,
water.
this one's got a lot more frontage than the other one. that
And the
you
others?
mentioned,
Okay. We've seen this situation before.
Oh.
That's why the footprint of the dock that you're building back, you're saying that that is the same as the footprint?
No, we're not reconstructing a dock. This is an as-is existing dock. We're
This is the one
reconstructing a
that's-
home.
This dock has existed there for decades?
Yes,
Okay.
for
Okay.
at least 34, if not 37 years. We're doing nothing to the dock. We're just trying to rebuild the home.
So
that
you're
ex-
just legitimizing the dock?
legitimizing the dock. And
Okay.
it's a condition on our single-family residential permit that it be legitimized prior to a CO being issued once construction is complete on the home.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Does the board, anyone on the board
I
have
do.
questions? Mr. Holmberg?
You're saying the dock is exactly the same as it was in
Yes, sir.
1986 to 89, correct?
Yes, sir.
So in your ask for variances, it looks like you're enlarging the dock, is that correct?
No, that's the existing.
That's the existing.
Yes, existing size of the dock is larger than what's now
Okay, so
allowable.
what are you actually asking for? I must be missing the boat here. If the dock
To
is.
leave the dock alone and let it.
No, I mean,
be-
if the dock is exactly the same as it was in the 80s, why are you asking for a variance of
The
something?
building
that-
department will
The
not,
dock does not meet the regulations
The
for the
current
size.
regulations,
Yeah,
correct?
the current regulations, even the regulations back in
Keyword
in the
current.
80s.
Okay,
yes, sir.
so I guess my question that would be to the board then, that can't be grandfathered?
Grandfather died. We don't have any records of any permits on this property, so we don't have anything that was ever approved by the building department. We don't have anything that was ever, shows us that this was built this way with the permits. The grandfathered in.
there is a process to do that. However, this remedy is much easier and easier to prove. For a pre-existing use, you have to go back and prove that dock existed at that time through building permit and that. And a lot of times, when you get a structure that's old, it's very, very difficult to prove.
So, again, we're just asking for a variance for the current regulations. Correct.
These are variances that would allow for an existing dock to remain as is.
Okay. Fairly
It's
simple.
similar to the barn, it's similar to the barn that was too close to the property boundary. It was
Yeah,
there
it
for
is.
30 years. There's the word, the jargon we use is legitimize the existing condition.
And that's really what this is, because what happens is that if we don't remedy these, then, you know, it gets shown on a plan, and then you could come back and say, well, I show this plan with this dock this big, and there's no legitimization of that dock. So the easiest and most prudent way is for the variance process to go through.
We kind of slipped from questioning into discussion, but that's okay.
Sorry.
No, I'm not. Speed things up. Ms. Bass, Dr. Bass?
Yes, I was, since the dock is as old as it is.
I think you're on the wrong application.
Am I?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Since the dock is as old as it is, once this has been granted, then you might want to, that's okay.
No, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm.
Okay.
I'm thinking,
All right.
okay. My thinking is, if this is voted and approved, if the dock is then rebuilt, is that going to permit a larger variance for a new dock? Allow more leeway for a new, I'm not concerned about this old dock and the fact that where it is. I'm concerned that once we make our approvals and the dock owner says, I need to have a new dock, which if it's this old, it probably needs to be replaced. Is that going to, how is that going to affect the neighbors?
Sure, so what I would tell the board, if the concern is that if for it's not if, it's when the dock needs to be replaced,
Yes.
if the board has concerns about allowing for the same dock to be built, then what I would tell you is to condition your motion to only apply for the existing dock, and any new dock would have to meet our current code.
If it ever got destroyed by a hurricane or anything, then they'd have to meet the current codes. You have a condition to that, you could.
Would that even be necessary? Because if we pass this, they're going to meet current code, and then they would just rebuild the exact same thing. Unless they wanted to change it, we wouldn't want to make them come back for another
Correct.
hearing. We would want to approve it if they, as long as they build within the same dimensions, we wouldn't.
That's exactly what I was.
But if they went beyond that, they'd have to apply for a variance again anyways.
Correct,
Right.
okay, that's what I wanted to know, thank you, yes. You said it better than I.
Mr. Chair, I just
Yeah,
have no
go ahead.
question. You actually answered all my questions, and I give you credit for doing your research and coming up with 1980s pictures. That was impressive, so good job.
Any other questions? No. Okay, I have to ask for, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against this application? Please come forward.
Kind of narrowed down to me, huh?
Name and address.
My name is Richard Crowell, 420 Artemis Drive, one of the houses right next door to the property.
Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you're going to give us today is the truth?
I do.
Okay.
I just wanted to say
You're
that.
for or against?
I'm sorry?
Are you
For I'm
the
sorry.
application?
Yes.
Okay.
Just wanted to say that I have lived 8 years right next door to them. It does not interfere with our dock entering or leaving or any view of the water or anything. So we are fine with it, and I've also talked to numerous neighbors in the area, and everybody is fine with the dock just as it is.
Okay.
As is.
Yep, as is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any others? No. Good. Final summary brief.
I think we're good with the facts, so
Okay,
nothing
thank you
else.
very much.
Thank you.
Again, this raises in District 2, Mr. McCann's district, and Chair, I cannot make a motion, so looking for a motion from one of the other board members in a second. Anyone want to try?
I'll move for approval as depicted on the survey provided by the applicant on 11/2/2023.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Thomas has made a motion, Mr. Holmberg has seconded the motion, and the motion is in 5 parts. Part 1 is to permit a variance of 7.5 feet from the required 7.5 feet east setback as projected in a straight line into the waterway. Part 2 is to permit a variance of 7 feet over the maximum 30-foot projection, 20% of the width of the waterway, permitted for a boat dock. Part 3 is to permit a variance of 78.16 square feet over the maximum of 600 square feet, permitted for the deck together with the roofed area. Part 4 is to permit a variance of 87.51 feet over the maximum 500 feet, permitted for a covered boat dock. And Part 5, to permit a dock higher than the property seawall in an RU-111 zoning classification. So we have a motion on the floor. Board discussion, anyone? I just want to make sure that we understand that we are legitimizing these dimensions per the existing dock, and that is all. As far as any future permits or stuff, they come back if they want to expand the dock. However, if they wanted to build a dock within these dimensions, within this footprint, this variance would cover a future permit?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay.
But there's no way to know if these are the exact dimensions of the dock, because there's no documentation.
No.
There's documentation of what they're approving on the survey. That's what it's
okay.
going by.
Okay.
And the stated dimensions basically describe the footprint. The stated variance dimensions essentially state the footprint. Any further discussion? All right. The special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. There's no special circumstances here other than it's an existing condition. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. No, the dock was there at purchase or at time of rebuilding the damaged house. The granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. No special privilege that would be denied to others who applied for a similar variance. The literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the permits provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. It would be unnecessary and undue to have them rebuild a dock that already has been existing and that the neighbors have no particular, by testimony, the neighbors do not have an objection to. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of land building. Well, it's the exact dimensions, so that's the minimum variance. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. I heard testimony that the boating will not be impacted by this dock that's already existing there, and I don't see that it would be detrimental to public welfare to have an existing dock remain existing. So, all of that said, I will call the vote by roll call. Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Mr. Holmberg?
Aye.
And Ms. Mallard?
Aye.
Okay. The motion passes and the application is approved. Mr. Bodie, do we have any other applicants today?
Not today.
Then I declare this meeting of the Brevard County Board of Zoning Adjustment adjourned for December 20th. Thank you all for attending.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.